Welcome, innovators, business owners, entrepreneurs, technology experts, academia, government R&D communities, and other members of the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. This is Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or NC DEFTECH. In this podcast, we will showcase various technologies with local and national experts who aim to solve complex national security problems. In the coming weeks, we will highlight North Carolinians with the potential to, or those that have positively contributed to enhancing the capabilities of our warfighters, law enforcement, and first responders. We will also feature government leaders in research and development who have helped shape the future in this domain. These podcasts are just one of the many free services provided by the North Carolina government to assist the North Carolina innovation ecosystem to thrive and provide solutions for our nation. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rob Robinson with the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office. I have my colleague here, Bob Burton, and we are here to give you your federal opportunities update. And really, it's more like, hey, wake up. You're running out of time. That's probably the theme of today's discussion. And not because you're running out of time to continue to get into the government space, but you're running out of time to get into the government space with the opportunities that are available. And many of them are closing here in the first 2 weeks of March. So if you're not paying attention to what's going on in the battle space, you're going to miss some opportunities. And there's a lot of good stuff going on and a lot of opportunities, even if you don't want to submit, to find out colleagues and partners that you could potentially network with and give yourself the best opportunity to win in the government space. But without further ado, I'll pass it over to Bob, and we'll dive right into some of these opportunities. And there's some good stuff going on, like I said. So please, if you need assistance, reach out to your DefTech team. And there's a ton of people in the innovation network that are willing to help you and support you to achieve your goals as a small business or large business partner. Without further ado, I'll pass it over to Bob. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and that's why we do these sessions, because the technology landscape for the federal government, just the technology landscape alone, changes so fast, and there's so many opportunities, but it takes partnerships, it takes teamwork, it takes collaboration, it takes a community, but it also takes education. So we're here to provide that education with our analysis, with our expertise, here every week on the coffee calls, in order to make sure that our companies are aware of what's happening and the opportunities they have to learn, to be competitive, to submit, and win. So we're going to talk this morning, if you can see the tabs across the top, but we'll hit them, about the coming up SBIR training, and that's TTR training hosted by First Flight Venture Center and the Defense Technology Transition Office of North Carolina, or DefTech, at 4 locations across the state. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Irregular Warfare Technical Support Directorate and their open BAA that you should be looking at now and making travel plans on 7 March to go up to D.C. To talk to the program managers for the different topics and the different subgroups. We'll cover those. We'll also look at the BAA and see what some of the requirements are. We'll take a look at some open SBIR topics that you could be and should be submitting for. And then we'll take a look into the future about some of the upcoming events. We'll discuss our TIDE program and why you should submit to that. And we've covered that in depth last week. So let's go ahead and get started with the SBIR training. So next week, we're going to be conducting SBIR hybrid training at Fayetteville Technical Community College. But why? If you're a small company, small business, looking to win in the federal space, you don't want to miss this training. Our unique selling proposition is simple. We'll provide you with the knowledge, with the tools to develop winning proposals for federal agencies. Our experienced instructors have decades of experience in supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses, and they'll provide you with the guidance and support that you need to succeed. You're going to learn how to prepare your company to be eligible to bid on SBIR opportunities. You'll also develop a winning strategy for your SBIR and STIR proposals. Again, small business innovation research and small business technology transfer. You'll understand the differences between these programs hosted by the federal government, Small Business Administration, and the Defense Department. and build a network of contacts and resources to help you succeed in the cyber application process. So the 4 locations, I'll just pull up, and we'll put these links in the chat if you're on Mobilize, or if you're listening to the podcast, we'll put it in the podcast description. In Fayetteville, Technical Community College on March 8th. On March 9th, the following day, we'll be in Wilmington, down at Cape Fear Community College. We'll skip a week, and then the following week will be cyber training at Forsyth Technical Community College. And you can see the date is March 22nd. And then March 23rd is going to be Caldwell Community Colleges. We've got a lot of community colleges across the state, and they're very, very coordinated in helping small businesses, helping students with a business idea, launch those businesses, and then work with the state, whether it's the PTAX, the Small Business Administration, North Carolina Military Business Center, or in the technology space, NC DEFTECH. So if you're not signed up for any one of these trainings, please do take a look, sign up for it. There is no cost for it. It's sponsored by the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Why? Because North Carolina wants you to win. We want you to win, and we want to be a part of your winning journey. So again, this event is specifically designed to benefit small businesses from rural areas, those owned by women or economically disadvantaged applicants, and those applying for SIBR and STIR awards for the first or second time. You got to be there. We are committed to helping you succeed no matter your background or experience level, even if you've never done business with the federal government. You need to start preparing now, even if you think you want to do business with the government. So if you're ready to take your small business to the next level, well, join us at these community college locations around the state for our SIBR and STIR training events. It's the best way to increase your chances of winning SIBR and STIR funding and accelerate your company's growth. And we haven't even talked about North Carolina's commitment to matching grants, whether they're initiatives to help you offset costs when you submit, and then also when you win that proposal, that grant, then there's dollars matching from the One North Carolina Small Business Program. So all of those points will be discussed in further detail. But Rob, you want to give me some of your perspectives on why you think companies should attend this upcoming training?
Yeah. So the real reason why you need to participate in the training is, first and foremost, it's free. And as a small business owner, you need to be able to stretch a dollar as far as you can get it to go. So by taking advantage of these free opportunities, wherever it is in location, yeah, it may cost you a little bit of gas money, but at the end of the day, the amount of money that you would spend on a tank of gas is going to be offset by the knowledge that you're going to gain from being in this program. So there's 4 locations. You don't have to go to all 4. You just have to make it to one of them. And that's another thing that we have to mention is there's only one opportunity that you need to get to explore the SBIR opportunities. As you heard in all the discussion in the last couple of years about the government budget and how the SBIR program and the STTR program is going to evolve, this is your opportunity to get the most current information, particularly the most current information in North Carolina on how you can get support to win at these federal opportunities. And again, the federal landscape is confusing. There are a ton of landmines out there that could prevent you from being successful. And we are here as an organization to help demystify some of the process so you have the best opportunity to go. The other piece of it is working on your elevator pitch. We say this all the time, but we have a lot of companies that can't effectively say what they do. And if you can't tell somebody what you're doing and what's your why, then this is another opportunity to kind of figure out what you're doing it for. Again, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's to build the military industrial base here in North Carolina. But all that being said, tax breaks, business opportunities, all those other things, the reality of it is to protect the 96,000 servicemen and women. And you could probably bump that up to closer to 150,000 when you include law enforcement, firefighters, etc., that are all working to protect the nation in some capacity. And that's really what our ultimate goal is not just to help you win as a business and be successful, but to bring technologies and capabilities to those people that are constantly in harm's way on a daily basis, so they have the best opportunity to leverage technology to make their lives and their jobs easier. And I'll pass it back to Bob. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. Well, speaking of those who are in harm's way at the tip of the spear, we're going to take a look at the Irregular Warfare Technical Support Directorate. You've heard us talk about this on previous discussions here on the Federal Technology Ops Update. IWTSD, formerly CTTSO, identifies and develops capabilities for DoD and interagency customers to conduct irregular warfare against all adversaries, including great powers, competition, and non-state actors. Of course, there's no shortage of threats around the world, to include great powers competition and competitors. You've seen the continuous support that we give to Ukraine in their fight and in their fight for their survival against Russia and what else is happening globally. But you should take a look at this Irregular Warfare Technical Support Directorate, get to know their subgroups, the purpose of their subgroups. We'll take just a quick look at their broad agency announcement, and we'll talk about the industry day very quickly because we've already talked about it on past sessions. You can go back and pull up those podcasts. That's the beauty of doing this. So what you should be doing is find out where you fit. It's a good idea to start with the broad agency announcement. We'll talk about the bids process and how you need to sign up for not just SAM.gov, but you need to sign up for the IWTSD platform so that you can review the BAA and submit for their competitive process. And we talked about their business process, their business cycle on a previous episode, so you can go back and look at that. So the contract system, the contract opportunities, again, bids.iwtsd.gov. We'll put these links in the chat. You have to go in and sign up for a access to their portal. That's where you're going to submit. So just like you need to have a sam.gov, it all starts with sam.gov. You need to have a DSIP account for Defense Cyber. You need to have an IWTSD bids application and registration. And so all of these things, that's why we've talked about this a month ago now, is that you've got to get left of bang. You've got to be prepared now and signed up for these various websites today because these opportunities move fast. Next week is their industry day. And again, they're going to identify and develop capabilities for DoD to conduct irregular warfare against adversaries, great power competitors, non-state actors, and deliver those capabilities to DoD components interagency partners. Right here's the key: through rapid research and development, advanced studies, technical innovation, and provisions of support to U.S. military operations. This is a very quick, very tight cycle that IWTSD works on, and we're in the broad agency cycle. They're going to award very, very quickly if you can do the work in the BAA. But in order to learn more, you should head up on March 7th to the Industry Day, Hilton Alexandria Mark Center. I'll pull up the broad agency announcement. I'll turn it over to Rob to kind of hit some of his highlights. But you need to get in, look through this 75-page document. Here's some of the subgroups which we rapidly highlighted, and find out where you fit. I bet your company fits, your research institution, your academic institution, your university fits somewhere in one of these technology capability areas that are needed at the very tip of the spear and for the defense of the nation today. So I'll turn it over to Rob for some comments on this.
Yeah, so the first thing that I will illuminate about the bids process and everything else with the broad agency announcement from IWTSD is they only send you email when there's something going on. So they're not going to spam you. That's the first thing that I would tell you. And like a lot of these organizations, you'll sign up and then you'll just get bombarded with emails that you will never read because you really don't care for them. But the BAA's announcement that come out from IWTSD, they do one a year. Sometimes they're continually open, so they may not be open for just a 12-month period, but that's where you get into the finer details of looking into the specifics to know when and where the BAA is going to end. But the bid system is very important. So if you're signed up for it, you get a single email from IWTSD that says, hey, look, your the bid's open, information is out, here's the draft, etc. One of the things that you have to pay attention to, if you look about a third of the way down the page, or not even about a third of the way down the page, it says all submissions are due by 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So what does that tell you as an individual? If you are going to submit, make sure that you submit on time. Sometimes they extend the deadline, but it's usually not likely. So if you don't have all your paperwork together that fits into the submission, you may miss an opportunity. So make sure as you go through that BAA, you look specifically at what their submission criteria are so you can have the best opportunity to submit for the opportunity. And when you look at it, again, there's a whole bunch of things that are in there. You have advanced analytics and all the other topics that are in the BAA. Do not step away from those and see where you fit, because you've got advanced analytics, CBRN, EOD and UXO, human performance training, indirect and influence competition, protection, survivability and recovery, surveillance, collection and support operations, and tactical offensive support. All that being said, it's just what can I provide to a warfighter on the ground? As previously mentioned, we talked about this. All these capabilities are going to help enable their mission so they can do it better and faster and more effectively. So as you're going through, make sure that you understand what's required and how long you have before you submit it. And remember, you submit before the deadline, because it's very rare that I've seen that the deadline gets moved. And usually what happens is the deadline will move if they don't have the right submissions in the right categories, but they're not going to tell you which ones they are. They're just going to say, hey, we're going to extend the deadline to midnight rather than 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But either way, make sure you're paying attention to what goes into the packet and what time the submission is due. And those are very, very critically important. And I'll pass it back to Bob. Thanks.
Just a point on this. Even if you're not going to submit, sign up for the bids. Sign up for DSIP. Sign up for Vulcan. Sign up for SAM.gov. All the things that we talk about, or else you're not prepared for success. What I like about this broad agency announcement is they start out with the problem. Read through these problem statements. We've talked about this in the past about understanding the customer, the end user, the warfighter, their application of this technology. Guess what? It changes. It's frustrating, right? Absolutely. It changes because the world changes. It's a fluid environment. Technology is a very fluid environment. War, combat, the joint operational environment is a very fluid environment. So study these problems. Go through and find where you fit. Look at the contract opportunities, synthetic libraries. You saw the one about additive manufacturing. Here's a sensor for CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive. So we're just hitting a couple of these. Portable electronic exploitation analysis kit. You can imagine how that would be beneficial by our interagency partners who are at the edge abroad and also domestically to support our homeland security. Heads-up display for a bomb suit and other specified requirements. Human performance, long-range jungle patrol reconnaissance course. Yeah, we need to get back into jungle tactics. We've been in the desert mindset for a very long time where the jungle in austere environment training ability and operability and joint interoperability has certainly waned over the last 20 plus years. So if you're in the training space, there's training courses, robotics capability courses. There's a lot of great information in this BAA. You'll have to read it to find out more. All right, let's change gears and let's look at the broad agency announcements quickly. Matter of fact, I'm going to move through this one in less than a minute, and Rob will ask for some thoughts on this. But 162 topics for the SBIR and another 33 topics for the STTR. Both of those are wrapping up, like Rob said. This is a very fast week, and you should be writing furiously to submit for these open topics. Rob, any thoughts on these cyclical SBIR opportunities?
Yeah, the main thing about them is, SBIR, that's a small business. STTR is usually partnered with some type of organization in an academic university. So those are opportunities that you have to have. You may not be able to submit for STTR if you do not have an existing relationship with a university. However, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't submit or shouldn't look for partners, because there are going to be partners that are available. And one of the other things that you have to look at, if you look to the bottom section, they have quarterly SBIR and STTR submissions. So they're 22 or 23 dot whatever, and then you know what cycle it is. So it's 1 through 4, usually based off of the quarter during the submission. But the other part of it is the annual BAAs. There's only 8 of those, but those topics are usually much, much broader, and they go much, much deeper. So they give you an opportunity to kind of look at other opportunities that you may not normally see in the normal process of submissions. The requirements may be different as well. So that's one of the things that really we want to give you the information at the wave tops, but you have to dig into it to make sure that you have the correct information that you're submitting for these opportunities. I really think, though, that the SBIR is usually the way to go, because at the end of the day, what it asks you to do is to think about a transition plan into the commercial space, because dual purpose technology is where it's at. So between a phase 2 and a phase 3, if you get a direct to phase 2 or you're going into a phase 3, just equals more money. And if you go into a phase 3, you have to have some type of capital matching. And what happens when you get that capital matching is you get more money. So if you can get $1.2 million, just as an example, from the government to go into a phase 3, you already have collected $1.2 million of capital, whether that be private capital or venture capital. So you're looking at $2.4 million to achieve those taskings and those task orders that are associated with the task to commercialize whatever product it is or service that you're working on. And so that's a huge portion of the SBIR process, which doesn't get talked about a lot. Commercialization in phase 3, dual purpose technologies, getting technologies into the hands of warfighters, but also making a change to our society to bring those capabilities in to the normal day-to-day life. So many things have come from the military industrial complex. I guarantee you have at least 2 of them in your house. The GPS on your cell phone, where did that come from? The military industrial complex. The microwave. You think about Velcro. You think about all these things that are kind of ubiquitous now, all started off as some kind of project in the military. And as they commercialized it, it became more useful. And really, commercialization may seem like a super daunting task, but at the end of the day, what it does is it allows you to scale your company to have more successful growth in the long term. And that's ultimately the desire of it, because the federal government also knows that more people are willing to invest in commercial things than they are in the government sometimes. And there's many Department of Defense arms in a lot of companies, or there's companies that just don't have it and they want to stay strictly commercial. But if you're a small business, I think your best opportunity is to develop through the SBIR, STTR process and then get to that dual purpose track sooner rather than later, because that's where the money is. I hate to say it, like, yeah, you can get $100 million shingle with the U.S. government, but you can make $200 million if you get into a commercial space and your technology is of the right sort. And I will pause there because I am yakking way too much, but just remember, your SBIRs and your STTRs are a very, very important part of development for support to the warfighter. And if that is what you choose to do, then there's plenty of opportunities out there. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, those are great points, Rob. And now's the time to start and build your strategy. Speaking of strategy, if you notice when the SBIR and STTR training events are, they're in March to get you ready for the pre-release, as Rob said, in these upcoming SBIR and STTR cycles. These run cyclically, and we want to prepare you to be ready to submit. And then, like Rob mentioned, make sure you take advantage and at least take a look at those 8 annual topics. We're going to start to wrap up here as we kind of highlight some of the events that are coming up. We highlighted the TIDE program last week. That's in support of the 2023 Southeast Region Federal Construction Summit. Dates are April 12th and 13th. Coming up is the Textile Summit. These are all military business center events and summits here in North Carolina, but DefTech is playing a major role in each one of these summits, to include the medical, biomedical, biodefense, because there are technology needs and requirements to each one of these really kind of disciplines, whether you're talking construction technologies, in textiles, wearable sensors technologies, and also in medical, biomed, and biodefense technologies. And more information to come on the Defense Technology Symposium, which was tremendously successful last year. Bottom line is, we want to highlight your small businesses. It starts with a quad chart, and that's all we ask for our small businesses. So I'm going to highlight the TIDE program. This RFI ends on the 11th. Actually, I beg your pardon, it ends on the 10th, next Friday. So you've got this week and next week to do what? Submit 4-block quad chart. That's it. Everything starts with a quad chart. These technologies are based on the Engineer Research Development Center, based on engineered resilient systems. But if you have a technology that is not found inside of this request for information, essentially a BAA, this is the DEFTECH Tech Scouting program that we run across North Carolina to match your technologies, your solutions with government hard problems. Again, it's to position North Carolina companies left of bang. And Rob, I'll give you the last word if you can, kind of pull together the reason why folks should submit for TIDE and, 4-block quad chart and a 1-page white paper. I don't think it's too much to ask.
Yeah, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. You got to start working on your pitch. And your pitch is a 4-block quad chart. And part of the reason why they use a quad chart is that's one of the easiest ways to communicate to executives in the fashion. It was brought up last week on the coffee call if you weren't there, but one of the things that Rich said was, we communicate with a quad chart similarly as they would communicate to an investor at a business place, right? So if you're working in a sort of business or you're trying to pitch to a senior executive and trying to get money or trying to get a decision, using executive level of communication is very, very important. That's why we use a quad chart. We try and be as succinct as possible. We try and create the opportunity for anyone to present their information. But the other piece of it is it's a repository and you start working on your pitch. Some people have never, communicated to a senior executive ever in their lives, and that's okay. That's why we have the quad charts. That's why you can use your DEFTECH team. Bob and I will sit here and listen to your pitch over and over and over again until you get it right. Because perfecting your pitch is part of everything that you do. If you can't communicate effectively, you'll end up taking more time trying to communicate, and then you might miss the mark, because if you're just rambling on and on and on, your target audience is going to get lost in all the other communication. But if you have a quad chart and say, hey, this is what I have, this is what I can fix, this is currently where my technology is, and this is what it's expected to do if we pass it off to warfighters, and this is our commercial use case that we're exploring. If you can do that in 2 minutes or less, guess what? You've probably captured that person, and they're going to take a little asterisk and put that on top of your quad chart. The other piece of it is we collect these things. So when you submit, we'll collect these quad charts up and get them into the hands of the relevant agency. You saw the previous slide that Bob put up with all the different events that are going on. There's going to be government people at all those events. So the requisite quad charts that go in support of those particular events are going to get packaged up and physically handed to the government personnel, and then we're going to send them a soft copy as well. So when they leave, they're taking your information with you. If they have a long drive or a flight, guess when they're going to go through those quad charts? Probably when they're flying. They're going to make some notes. They might reach out to you and communicate. We've had some recent successes trying to get them on the podcast, but the Green Hills have been working on their technology, and they just recently got a CRADA. I'm going to pause there because I'm trying to get them on the podcast because they want to talk about how they went through the process and how they eventually, got tagged in with a pretty significant opportunity. And so these are all great opportunities, and guess where it came from? Them building a 1-block quad chart, about this time last year, sitting down with us, working on their pitch, refining it, and then we handed their quad chart off, and they got some responses back. So please, there's people in the North Carolina innovation community that are winning. There's people that are outside the North Carolina community that are winning. And guess what's happening? They're all talking to the DEFTECH team, and we're giving them the best pointers that we can give them and, the best advice that we can give. But at the end of the day, they're doing the work and they're submitting. And so submissions are just as important as the work that you put into your product. So if you can pitch it, then you can win. That's a lot of words. I think we went a little bit longer than we wanted to this week, but we usually do. And that's because there's so much information and ground to cover. But for my colleague, Bob Burton, I'm Rob Robinson, and we are from the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office. And this has been your Federal Opportunities Update. Again, submissions close on the 8th at 3. So if you are not looking to turn in something, or if you are looking to turn in something, that clock is running and you're running very, very short on time. So you have just a little bit more than a week left. And we hope that you submit. And we appreciate your time today, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or DEFTECH. The views expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individual contributors. As indicated, DEFTECH does not take responsibility for those statements or opinions and accepts no responsibility or liability for any inaccuracy or omissions reported during this program. The content and interviews are fair use for instructional purposes and to build awareness for the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. The full version of this presentation has been uploaded to our Mobilize platform. Mobilize is just another free service provided to you to access more national security and business collaboration opportunities. You can sign up for more information at deftech.nc.gov. Join us soon for the next podcast coming to a platform near you. DEFTECH is a subsidiary of the North Carolina Military Business Center and receives its support from Fayetteville Technical Community College.